listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shemaiah Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shemaiah Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and today we have another show lined up for y'all. We have our guest of honor today, Garrett Gunderson. He's a best-selling author, a person that you need to know because he started business at 15. I mean, this guy is not playing when it comes to money and when it comes to finances. He's also a financial educator. We're going to learn about his mission, how he helps entrepreneurs increase cash flow, challenge destructive money myths, reduce unnecessary financial stress, and also building generational wealth without sacrificing life and all the hard work that you put into it. He has a website you can go to, is GarrettGunderson.com. And once again, cutting right to the chase. Garrett, thank you for being on, man. How you doing?
Doing well, man. I got to spend 2 hours with my nephew today and just interview him because he's, 13. So my dogs just got so excited because someone came to the door. I don't know how loud that is. My wife will take care of it here in a second.
No, we love dogs. I mean, we're based in Texas, so we love dogs.
Yeah. Hopefully, my wife will get them out of here. I got 2 dogs, so a golden and a little Aussie Bernedoodle. There she goes. She got him. He just can't help if someone comes to the door. He's like the best dog, but he's letting us know someone's here. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we have big dogs on the show, so I might cut a little bit of that 30 seconds of them barking, but I'll keep a barker there in there. So, as you were saying,
I was talking to my nephew, and we were filming with him today, and the dogs are just like running around. But it was cool to be like talking to a kid that's 13 years old. He started 3 businesses already. I mean, they're simple businesses, but like just no fear, right? And like, I was like, "When was the first time you knew you wanted to have money?" He goes, "When I was 5." And he's like. And his parents just didn't give him his money. So he earned money to buy a bike, or he earned money to go on to an amusement park with his friends. It was really cool to listen to him for 2 hours, just talk, because I think it was advice that any adult could benefit from. I think partially, like when you're 13, you just don't have a lot to lose and you have no fear. And sometimes people build that over time. They think about, how do I hold on to what I got? Kind of that playing not to lose thought. Sometimes that can kind of hold them back from doing what they do best because of that fear and that like nature of people not understanding money well enough.
And that's a great point, because when you look around, I mean, how many times have we seen an ad on social media, I made money. And a lot of people get burnt by scams, or they get frustrated because they thought they can get their money in 24 hours. And it's like, oh no, you have to actually build and work this out for maybe 24 months. You understand, like your family, your nephew, that at 15, you got inspired to do something yourself. What was some of the hard truths that you had to learn over time about how money works?
Yeah, so like when I was young, I kind of held on to every dollar I made. I was kind of like a miser, right? I thought that like it was about how much you could save. And I started a business, which was great because I was playing sports. It was the only way to kind of play sports and make some money, but I never spent that money. And then I won $5,000 being the Young Entrepreneur of the Year. And I wanted to invest that because I thought it was a lot of money at 17. My mom wouldn't sign off as a custodian, so I had to wait till I was 18. And that kind of led me into the investment career, which totally transformed my mind, because I believe that like wealth was a thing about discipline, but money doesn't really care about your effort. It cares about the value that you create. And when I started to invest heavily in myself to build skill sets, I started to become more abundant. And by being more abundant, I created that more value and then made more money versus just trying to save every dollar. Like when I first got married, I gave my wife this ridiculously low budget to find a place for us to live. And she's like, are we supposed to live on that? And because I was just in scarcity. And I thought, man, I just got to save. And the world kind of teaches that. And so when people think wealth is a game of reduction, that's not the way. No one shrinks the way to wealth. It's a game of production. How do you serve more people, solve bigger problems, add more value, and money will find its way to you if you do those things. But you have to get to a more abundant thought process.
When people, specifically entrepreneurs, when they get stuck, how often, I mean, let's kind of break the myths out there. How often does entrepreneurs really get stuck versus what people try to paint on social media?
I think entrepreneurs get stuck only if they're not humble enough to ask for help, because I think that there's like ebbs and flows. Any business has its cash positive days and then has times where there might be cash negative. And if people get to this isolation where they don't want to say what's going on and they want to pretend everything's okay, or what I find a lot of entrepreneurs, I'll talk to them like, how can I support you? I'm good. But the reality is they need 5 or 6 things, but they don't want to look weak or vulnerable. And so it's like, no, if you're willing to be humble enough to ask for help, you'll be stuck a lot less. And if you get in a place where you feel stuck, find those relationships that uplift you, that inspire you, that positively challenge you, that will make good connections for you. I spoke earlier today on a virtual thing, and after I spoke, they said, hey, we just want to help you. What can we do for you? And I gave them 5 things. I'm like, I want to be on more in-person podcasts. I want to embed in communities where I can help them with their finances. I was like, I want to be better on video. And I got 5 text messages. I got 2 emails because I asked for that help. So even when you're doing well, asking for help can get you to the next level, because wealth is a game of collaboration, not isolation.
Man, that's some good stuff right there. This is like a masterclass that you need to share this with a friend, because we're not even 10 minutes in. He just dropped some bars that is like worth 25 minutes. So this is gold. This is real good. When you think about how people assume that wealth requires constant sacrifice and extreme budgeting, someone who's in that limited scarcity mindset, maybe they work a corporate job, they're used to waiting for that check every 2 weeks or every week. What is your words of wisdom and how we should understand how we can use money to build wealth? Yeah.
So to me, we have to become better investors. So we have to learn how to invest, where most people have taught us, I just trust the experts, hand me your money, lock it up for 30 years and hope for the best. Learn how to create cash flow. When you can have recurring revenue, even if you're stuck in work all day, you have the evening, you have the weekend, take some time away from other things temporarily to invest in yourself so that you can liberate yourself. I mean, I didn't come from money. I'm from a coal mining town, and I didn't have a lot of connections, and I didn't know a lot about money, and I just made a lot of mistakes. It's part of the process. You make mistakes, but you have to be resourceful and resilient. Resourceful in saying, even if I don't have the resources, how could I create the life that I want? Resilient. When things aren't going my way, how can I have a big enough purpose that I'll see it through and get to the other side? And so I feel like a lot of the riches are in relationships. Even my nephew today, when I was talking to him, he's like, yeah, I have some friends that when I started he had a dog poop scoop business, right? He's cleaning up dog poop at 12 years old, hitting his goals. And his friends were like, dude, come play with us. Why are you doing that? And they were kind of discouraging him. And he goes, yeah, I get that they're just kind of wanting what they want and not wanting what's best for me. And at 12 years old, to see that, who we associate with is critically important. And I'm not saying to go destroy relationships. I kind of just go, hey, if someone's not really supportive of where I'm at right now, let's say back in 2008, I was having some, my marriage was just okay. We weren't doing great. It was 2 young kids. I was over leveraged in real estate. Business was the first year in 10 years it was down. I was kind of not available and numb. So I decided I'm not going to talk to my friends going through a divorce for the next 6 months, because I'm going to figure out my marriage. And I want to be around these people that have good marriages. And I figured out 3 people that had great marriages, and I started to ask them, what did you do? How'd you get through tough times? And that supported me to create this extraordinary marriage. So I call that friendlies. I'm friendly with people that don't believe in my vision, that don't support what I'm up to, and I just politely decline their invitations, but I don't try to change them. Then friends are people that I say yes to their invitation anytime I can, invite them anytime I can, because they're uplifting, they're positively challenging me, they inspire me. And so those are the kind of things to kind of look for. I have dinners at my house just to be around good people. I just, yesterday I had a friend's like, hey, I have a bunch of people at my office. If you could stop by, talk to them for a minute. I got it. You just say yes to people and invitations that support your life. And then as you do more of that, you build more relationships that can help you become rich. The problem is if you're always around negative people, that's like creating debt in your energy field. But if you want to have more equity, you get around the people that go, you can do better. I can help you. Let me make this connection. Or, I wasn't doing really good with social media, but I spent a lot of money on it. So I just called a few of my friends. I was like, man, I just am not doing what I want to do. It's starting to go down instead of up. And they made connections. They encouraged me. We created study groups together. That's what you want. If I called my mom, she'd be like, well, it's not your fault, we love you anyway. And like, that's great to hear, but it's not helping me get to the other side,
Or someone tells you to do a TikTok dance and pray that you go viral.
Yeah.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio, watching this online, talking to our guest today, Garrett Gunderson. Go to his website, GarrettGunderson.com. You mentioned earlier about value, and I want to touch on that. When you think about what it means and what it takes as an entrepreneur to not just provide value to your team or to your business and clients, but what discipline looks like when you're trying to scale your business. What does that even look like from your own personal experience? How much discipline does it take for someone to really get to the next level?
Part of it is having a purpose that you can see it through when it's not easy. Because that purpose and having that vision that's so compelling that you're willing to do the work when it's really hard and it takes a minute to get results. Because I've hired the wrong people before. I've been in partnerships that didn't work out. But it's kind of like when you're a kid. When you crawl first before you walk, the first time you go to walk and you fall down, the parents don't go, well, they fell, they're fallers, we're just done. It's like, no, we're going to try again. So if you start realizing that mistakes are part of the process, and then you ask for that help, like we mentioned before, and you stay dedicated to what can you learn and what can you do differently the next day, and stay focused on what you can influence and control. A lot of people, when things aren't going well, they start talking politics. They start watching the news. They start complaining about the world instead of doing the things they have more control over in their own life, because then there's something to blame and something to escape. I think it's really hard not to escape. A lot of people escape into alcohol. Other people might escape into drugs. Other people might, have other addictions. That's when we don't have the power to actually deal with the emotions that come up properly. And I have a breathing technique that someone taught me. When my emotions are hijacking the way I want to go through my day, I get to a place of being calm in a parasympathetic state, and then anchor future powerful emotions to carry me forward instead of past negative emotions that betray me. Have you ever just had a thought in your head, you're like, where did that come from? Who does that belong to? Like, that doesn't have anything to do with anything, but if we pay attention to it, it might start telling us, who are we to build this business? We're not smart enough to build this business. We don't have the money to build this business. We don't have the connections. And that negative voice can start to overtake almost as like an excuse that leads us to victimhood. Victimhood doesn't serve anyone. Being a victor means you have difficulty, you have mistakes, you have problems, and you find ways to get through it. You get resourceful and resilient, as I said before, and you stay in that purpose, because if your purpose is bigger than your problem, you'll get to the other side. If your problem is bigger than your purpose, you'll lose motivation, and you'll probably just go to something else that isn't as fulfilling.
There's a saying that for every minute that we are angry, we lose 60 seconds of happiness. And I want to marry that with the idea that if we continue to carry the weight of negativity, it's like if you're pushing a giant rock up a mountain, eventually it's going to be dangerous. You're going to step aside and you're going to crush somebody or crush yourself. How do you keep yourself balanced when adversity strikes? Because it strikes at times when you're not expecting it. How have you kept your composure?
There's a few things. One is, when it happens, I go to mentors or peers to have a conversation. Sometimes I might vent for a second just to pass the emotion, but I call it a committed complaint. I'm not allowed to just complain. The committed complaint is, what am I going to do about it once I've processed that emotion? The second thing is, I may just get a hold of someone that I'm always a value creator for, that appreciates what I do, and pour into them, and it helps me elevate beyond that negativity for a minute and remind me of the greatness that I have within instead of the circumstance that I'm facing at the time. The other thing is, I have a strong family unit, so my wife is a rock. So I could go to her, we could talk, and she's going to help me see what are the lessons, what's the silver lining, and what are we going to do about it moving forward. And that communication and having that has really given me like a really strategic advantage, because a lot of spouses don't, especially a breadwinner, doesn't tell the spouse when things aren't going well because they want to be the provider and the protector. I just decided I'm going to be vulnerable because my wife's going to feel something's off anyway. She's got good intuition. And then she might think it's something that it's not. And why is he gone? Why is he numb? Why is he not talking? And it might be I'm just trying to get through something that she could have given me perspective or asked me a better question or said, sometimes she's like, I have a mentor. She's like, have you talked to Brian about this? And I'm like, I'll schedule a meeting. She just does that gentle nudge. Or sometimes we just get through the end of that conversation. And I feel like having my family, like I'm close to my parents and my siblings. And after this, I'm going to talk to my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. I'm just so close to them that I feel like that removes my fear. Because I was telling my nephew, I was like, one time we were going to buy a house, decided the day we were going to go to closing not to do it. And so now we were kind of without a place because we'd sold our other house. And we ended up moving in my in-laws' basement. So I was a multimillionaire living in my in-laws' basement. But remove the money. I knew that I could go there, which created some safety for me. To say, I can swing big. I've got family that will help me. My wife is like, let's go for the biggest dream possible. And if we don't get all the way there, it's safe for you not to get all the way there. I still got your back. It just might mean we change the timeline. Like if people could invest in that quality of relationship around their life, almost anything is possible. My nephew today, his dad had told him, if you put your mind to it, you could do it. Anything's possible if you're just willing to stay past motivation and continue to go even when it's difficult. Like all the same things we're talking about here today. And you can see it instilled in him because he started 3 businesses by the time he's 13. It's just encouraging. And part of it is sometimes we just need a cheerleader. We need a yell leader. We need someone that has our back to encourage us, because everyone I know, especially myself, goes through self-doubt at times. Like, can I do this? I had sold a business in 2021, started a new business in 2024. And I was like, can I do it this time? I had to just feel that and move forward anyway. I had to declare it to the people that I loved the most and have them support me and get past the insecurity. Because sometimes I judge myself and go, man, shouldn't I already know this? Or wasn't that? I've written the books on this. How could I make this mistake? Like, I think we're all human and we have those moments of humanity. But as soon as we realize everybody has that, we're not so alone. And I think there's a strength to that we can see it through and get to the other side. I think, as a matter of fact, I know I'm talking a lot here because you hit a nerve in a good way, is anyone that's accomplished something worthwhile has been through the fire. They've had to overcome adversity and obstacles and struggle. No one's extraordinarily successful without that. We've never watched the story on a movie. Someone was born, they had everything, they had no challenges, and they died. That doesn't exist. Nobody's had that happen. As a matter of fact, the people that kind of had that happen, where they just inherited $100 million, usually go through even more turbulence and more struggle because they're trying to find their place. And they didn't earn it. It was just handed to them. So like everyone has a difficulty, right? And as soon as we realize that, we're not alone. And that also means we could be of severe value. We could be of real value to people if we realize everybody's carrying around something. And if we could just open up, listen, ask questions, and let other people serve us, life gets a whole hell of a lot easier.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Garrett Gunderson. Go to his website, GarrettGunderson.com. Just one thing, this interview that you threw the dart and it's stuck. And that is feel it, but execute anyway. And I feel people, once they get out of their feelings, once they get out of social media feeds and what's on the news and all the stuff that we see on the outside lens, and they look inward, then that inner man, inner woman starts to see, oh, snap, okay, this is the reality of what it really looks like when you take the makeup off and the filters. And now I can start executing with clarity, minus the fluff. How important is it to have that type of mindset as an entrepreneur or as a father?
I mean, to me, it's what our thoughts and what we pay attention to is going to dictate how we go about things. And I think, the more you could be reasonable or unreasonable, but rational, meaning we get past our reasons in a rational way. But I also love the thought of just dreaming, thinking big. Like, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. And one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to do comedy. So August of 2017, I got up and did an open mic. Went well enough that my friends were like, hey, you should open for us. They were comedians. So I still opened up for them for a couple of years. They filmed their special. I opened. A manager saw it that was well known in Hollywood. He's like, I think you got what it takes. Took me a little while to be like, all right, we're going to do this. But then I just decided I want to get that on a streaming service. And I got that on Amazon Prime, living in Utah. None of that's reasonable. Like, what? I was in my 30s being like, I'm going to start comedy now. My wife was like, are you sure you're funny? I'm like, why? People laugh when I'm talking. She's like, yeah, you're making them money. But, it's just like, I just decided that it was something that really spoke to me from the time I was 5. That it felt like family. It felt like love. It felt like connection. I had written a letter to myself in 2014 at an event I spoke at. I'm going to do stand-up comedy. It took me 3 years to do that. And it took me till 2024 to get it on a streaming service. But it was a fun adventure. It was a fun game to just play and set out to do. Not because I knew how to do it. That's the thing, is you don't have to know how to do what you set out to do. You have to have a co-creator that can help you pass those difficult times. You have to learn to delegate so that you have the time and bandwidth to do the things that matter most, and collaborate to find other world-class people that can help you develop the skills you want to develop, because nobody wins alone. Even in a solo sport like golf, they have coaches. They have a mindset, a lot of sports psychologists, stuff like that. Like how we view the world and the thoughts that we think and which ones we pay attention to or don't are so much an indicator of what our life is going to look like and turn out to be, more so than about anything else.
I had a fitness trainer I met years ago, and he talked about in life you only get to do 2 things: either feed your faith or you feed your fear. But you can't do both. You have to choose. And he was like, on your best days, it's easy to feed your faith. But it's in the worst days where you have to make that difficult decision. Am I going to feed faith today, even though I don't feel like feeding it? I feel like it's a lost cause. He said you have to find a way to do it anyway. For you personally, on your darkest days, how did you find a way to push through it? And outside of mentors, because maybe there might be a day with a mentor is just not the person you're going to call right now because it's a dark time. How did you find a way to pull through and keep yourself motivated?
I remember I was going to break off a business partnership in 2023. It just wasn't working. I was this guy's best man. I went and met with him, and we had a conversation. The first day was good. The second day was tough. And I came home, and I went in our guest room with no lights on, and I just shut the door. And my wife was like actually worried about me because I was going through some kidney issues, which were kind of scary. Had a bit of insomnia, and that wasn't working out. And so I'll admit, I kind of sulked for 2 days, And then my wife was like, what's going on? What do we have to do? She's like, we'll sell anything if that's what it takes. Whatever you, and it was like, just the fact that she said that, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. Let me have the hard conversation, finish this separation, and then move forward powerfully in the things that I want to do. I did reach out to the mentor, have meetings with them, flew out and saw them, spent a day. Like it wasn't fun. It was tough. And I wasn't sleeping well, which made me kind of like a little bit insane in my head. Like I knew I wasn't thinking really straight. And I was sitting there going like, gonna have to have a kidney transplant? Like what's going on? And then my wife's like, I think if you meet with this Deborah, she could help you with her kidneys. She did. Within a week, I was sleeping. I reached out to a friend of mine who got me on stem cells and peptides, and my blood work got better. I mean, I just started to call the people. And you know what's crazy? I would be like, I can't even tell. I can't thank you enough. They're like, dude, it's our pleasure. You've done so much for it. Like, it feels good to give back. We've got you. And just saying, like, we've got you. Like, sometimes we just discount the value that we brought to the world when in our dark moments. And we don't tap into all that goodwill, all that equity, all that possibility. And if you don't have that, you can go build that today with one conversation to get on the right track, with one relationship. What can you do for them? Don't just ask what, it's kind of like the JFK speech, not just ask what they can do for you, but what you can do for them, and just make deposits, just deposits. And I think that the more abundant people are, the more they give compliments. The more abundant people are, the more they make connections. Like I was driving home I was visiting my in-laws and my parents last night. Like I'm super close to my family, more so at 47 than any other time in my life. And I just had a ping of one of my buddies. I'm like, man, I wonder what's going on. And I reached out to him. And he didn't answer, but this morning he's like, yeah, man, life's so-so. He lost his dad, his business is a little bit flat. And I was like, dude, I think I have a good connection for you. He's like, okay, I'll take it. I made the connection. But sometimes you just have to listen to that own pinging that happens for people in our lives, show up as a great advocate for them, and then just be willing to receive their support when it's time for you. So many people, out of embarrassment, shame, guilt, judgment, whatever it is, don't ask for help. They think it's weakness. No, it's your strength to be able to let other people serve and support you, and you'll build a deeper, more meaningful relationship if it's the right relationship.
Be listening to Refocused Radio, watching us online, talking to our special guest today, Garrett Gunderson. Go to his website, GarrettGunderson.com. Can't believe time is already up. But if you have one last message that you would like to share with our viewers and listeners, what would that be?
Usually, our biggest dreams come in small moments. Maybe literally a dream we have at night. Maybe we've finished something and it's a little knowing that we have inside. When you have that ping, do something about it. I always call someone to say, who can I get who could be my co-creator for this? When I told some jokes on stage, they laughed, and someone said, you should do comedy. I've been thinking of that, so I called my buddy who was a comedian as soon as I walked off that stage. Had a dream one night I would do a one-man show. Turned to my wife and said, I want to do a one-man show. She's like, what's that? And then I called my buddy who did one, and then he introduced me to his acting coach and director, and then I called someone else who was like, I just get into the action because it's a knowing. But most of us diminish that, and then we're like, man, I'm bored. Why don't I have my purpose? Because you ignored it when it was just a light feather to the face, a gentle nudge, a gut feeling. Don't ignore those. They're powerful, they're profound, because you've got something great within you. And if you focus on that, you'll explore the wealth within, and then you'll never be without.
Been listening on Refocused Radio and watching us online. Talking to Garrett Gunderson. Go to his website, GarrettGunderson.com. Like I always want to say to you, thank you for your time.